Yeah, thank you, Dr. Evan. Thank you, Professor Selvan, and thank you to all the listeners on this call. Uh, you know, um, when this opportunity came to me, I was scratching my head as to what should I what should I be speaking on, right? And then to just give a background. Tata Elxsi is a product design, R&D organization. So what the work that we do is cutting edge, technology development, and for us to service our customers, we need to hire, quality engineers, right? So at this point in time, we have about close to 12,000 engineers, working with us across our different, offices, both in India as well as, abroad in the US and in Europe and in Japan. Um, we do hire anywhere between 1,500 to 2,000 fresh engineers from colleges and universities, every year. So that's how and our experience is that we do spend a lot of time, ensuring that these engineers are trained. We have a formal, almost 6 months of both classroom and on-the-job training. And at the end of it, the engineers are allocated. They are, the various into various, departments, and they do spend another 6 months on the job, getting trained by the seniors and so on. So for us, a typical training cycle or investment that we make in an employee who joins us from the college is typically around 12 months, right? and and only it's after about 12 months of this investments, we are we are confident that the engineers can now be either talk to customers directly, or be part of the team that can deliver value to customers, right? So and and uh, and we have been scratching our head to see how we can cut short this sort of 12 months. Is there a better way of either training our engineers, or getting engineers ready with what what we would actually need, so that they can be productive much earlier, rather than spend the 12 months in this elaborate training process. um, and of course the world has changed drastically, as you know. um, we've had the pandemic, the COVID happening, and people working remotely, and so a lot of our training, and in fact, a lot of our work, went online, right? Instead of people coming to office and so on, we could do a lot of work remotely and so on. So again, the thought process is, yeah, if we can do that, then can we not do a lot of these trainings remotely, even before engineers join our organization? Can we make use of their time effectively and see how we can get people ready ahead of time and so on, right? So this is in general the context that we have, and this is a context that I would like to speak about. uh, Pardon me, my focus is primarily on the engineering, R&D sort of work, or maybe the IT sort of work. But I think whatever I say applies to whether you're a civil engineer or a mechanical engineer or an aeronautical engineer, or any job for that matter, right? Any technical stream that we talk about. I think it is applicable. So if you look at the Indian context today, the Indian colleges and universities graduate almost about 1.5 million engineers a year. 1.5 million engineers. That's a huge number of engineers that graduate, right? And if you look at the number of engineers actually getting into core engineering jobs, or jobs that make use of their education and qualification and so on, is about 250,000. There are about 250,000 jobs for about 1.5 million graduates who are coming out of the colleges and universities, right? And so um, this is a problem that that we need to address, because a vast majority of people who are graduating are not getting jobs, right? So that's an issue that is there in industry. Um, so what do the other people do, right? The people who don't graduate, right? I would say a lot of them get into unrelated fields, right? For example, in India, um, if you want to get into a bank or a post office, or if you want to get a job, right, in the civil services and so on, you have to write competitive exams and so on, and then you have to clear these exams, and then you have to attend an interview, and then you get selected and so on. So increasingly, if you see, a lot of these engineering graduates are migrating to such jobs, into banks, into civil services, really, which you don't need an engineering degree for these jobs, right? These jobs can be done by, you don't even need, in so many cases, you don't even need to be a graduate. With a high school diploma, you can do some of these jobs. So we do see a lot of these engineering graduates move into such jobs. Even after that, almost 50% of these engineering graduates, they don't land up a job, right? And then most of them get into, I mean, some of them, of course, they get into teaching, they get into small businesses, and so on and so forth, right? So a number of things that these guys do. uh, on top of it, if you look at it, I talked about 1.5 million students graduating as engineers. But actually, if you look at it, at any point of time, I mean, today, if you look at it, there's about 2.5 million, engineering capacity, or engineering, people who join the colleges. So close to a million, engineers don't even graduate. They either they lose interest midway, or they have a lot of, they have to clear a lot of papers. There is a backlog, and so on and so forth, right? And at one point in time, maybe I think 2014 or 15, we had about 3 million engineering seats in India. That was the highest capacity that we've had, right? So we there was a big boom in engineering, colleges and engineering seats and so on. So a lot of parents would push their kids to do engineering, and that peaked almost in 2014-15. And after that, from about a 3 million seats, it's now come down to about 2.4 million seats. I mean, the primary reason being that there are not enough jobs available. There are not enough qualified, good jobs, high paying jobs that are available. And so ever since, we've seen a downtrend in the number of students who are picking up these engineering education, right? So so this is the overall context. I just want, I mean, since there are folks who are not from India also in this call, I just wanted to give a context of where we are, and the problem that we face. So even though we have a surplus of engineering graduates, the industry still struggles to get qualified, ready talent that can be deployed, internally to you know to do productive work in the various fields, right? So with this context, I'll just and my talk is not a very, I would try and finish it quickly. There are just a few ideas that I thought will be worth talking about. um, so okay. So if you look at it, uh, I covered this, in the introduction, saying that, look, we, even in spite of having one of the largest engineering infrastructure, education infrastructure available in the world, if you look at it, but you know, there is an issue in the quality of the people that are graduating. There's also an issue in terms of employability of these people, which which forces companies like us to put in elaborate, retraining or reskilling programs to make them, contribute, effectively. So, so if you look at it, the current estimate of employability is about 15 to 20%, right? This is what is employable, and even those employable people have to necessarily go through retraining to really, make them productive, right? And the issue is also insufficient industry knowledge, and training, right? Exposure to cutting edge technology and so on, leading to a large pool of engineering graduates, not being employable, and moving into other areas, whether it is, banks or schools and so on, as I talked about, right? And more than half of the graduates struggle to find any employment. And what is more, the difficult situation is, there is, hardly any perceptible improvement in the quality of, graduates coming out in the last 5 to 7 years, right? We've been seeing this trend. Um, I mean, if you look at India, you should really look at that. There are tier one colleges, tier two colleges, tier three colleges, and the rest of colleges, right? Whatever I say is really not applicable to the tier one colleges, right? Tier one colleges definitely do a lot of good work in providing the best for their students, right? Which includes the best faculty, which includes a lot of, industry collaborations, tie-ups, and so on, which essentially gives a lot of exposure to the students while they are, working in their colleges. But this sort of facility and exposure is not available to majority of the engineering students in tier two, tier three, colleges and so on. Um, yeah. So yeah, as I said, the issue of low employability is really in the tier two, tier three colleges, and the question is, you know, is there anything really being done to address this, at these colleges or these universities, right? So we have not really seen that. We can't say that, there is a. I mean, the tier two and the tier three colleges recognize the problem. I mean, there's no doubt about it, but they are struggling to figure out how to address this problem, right? And this is just I mean, since we are in the technology space, it's just a sample illustration. When we look at, new areas, especially in our field like artificial intelligence or data sciences, robotics, and so on, you know, uh, in some of the areas, that we all look for, bright engineers. There, a single percentage points of those engineers who can be sort of employed, right away, right? Uh, and if you look at the folks who are, who can be trained and so on, again, it's not a very large number, between, 10 to 12% of the engineers, can have the capability or the capacity and the confidence that, they can be trained and, they can be deployed. So and this is applicable, across industry streams. You pick up, the percentages may vary slightly here and there, but it'll never go beyond 20-25%, right? And that's the experience, that we have, and this is something that definitely we need to address. And if you look at employability, there are two dimensions. One is, of course, the technology piece, or the subject matter, experts. In our area, it's a lot about, your logical capability, your programming skills, your, learnability quotient, right? Which is very important for the sunrise industries and so on, right? The technology changes so rapidly in our industry, right? Every day there are new things coming out. Every week there is some new development in technology, in open source, and so on, that is coming in. So it is important that, learnability as a concept, that it's very important to be imparted to students, that they need to be keep updated, and willingness to pick up new skills and so on, right? Um, and of course, we definitely need job relevant internships for these people. That also helps them to understand what the industry needs are, and and typically, tools. Tools and software that are needed in industry. Typically, the colleges have a very, I mean, most of the colleges, they invest in these tools, infrastructure, labs, and so on. But as you would know, these investments and tools get dated very soon. The colleges have to keep updated on the newer infrastructure, newer tools, and so on, and that takes a lot of investment. So we definitely see, especially when it comes to newer, the latest infrastructure, the latest equipments, and so on. There is a lacuna there, and engineers don't really get to work on the latest that is there in the industry, right? So that gap also necessarily have to be filled. While technology is important, the soft skills are also very important. Um, and you know the engineers that are coming out of especially tier 2 and tier 3 colleges, they tend to lack confidence, whether it is in communication, whether it is written and verbal communication, ability to work in a team, not just they have to work across cultures, across geographies, things like attention to detail, and a college or a university can be a very forgiving place, right? You can tend to make as many mistakes as you can, or you can take your time to learn certain concepts and so on. The pressure is relatively less, but when it comes to a workplace, there are certain deliverables that are expected, and you are expected to to manage your time effectively, and keep to your commitments and so on, right? So there are a number of soft aspects that that companies like us do spend a lot of time, and we have a program to we call it from a college to a workplace, right? Essentially a transition from a college to workplace. What are the various things that employees need to be aware of? Many times we see people, at least in the first few weeks of employment, they are still in the college mood, right? And we really need to tell them that, hey, now you are in a formal workplace, and there are certain expectations. You need to behave in a certain way. So these are again areas that corporates do spend a lot of time. So if you look at a engineering a graduate that is coming out, what is the expectation, right? Both from an industry and from their own individual perspective. We would definitely want this entire the ecosystem, whether it is the colleges, the academia, I mean the industry, and so on, to produce graduates who are industry ready, who are confident, confident of their capabilities, who would look forward to better career progression and job satisfaction. So this is the sort of expectation that a young engineer graduating would when he decides to have a career in the engineering field, this is something that he would look forward to after 4 years of education. Now, and unfortunately, we've not been doing justice to a large majority of this population. So what should we be doing, right? So from a college or from an institute's perspective, right? Definitely curriculum is one big aspect. I do know that there are autonomous colleges and universities that update their curriculum, and a few of them do a good job, but a vast majority of the curriculum is sort of dated, right? It is not in sync with the latest that is happening in the world. So it's very easy to make the statement, but very difficult to correct it, and to pin ownership, and and how a college or a university is going to update the curriculum, because it's a moving you can't it's not a one time effort. You can't say that you've done it, and then you for next 10 years you don't do anything about it, right? So it's a constantly moving scenario, and that needs a lot of thought, and from the college and the institutes to see how curriculum can be updated. um, One of the ways to look at it is, while the curriculum updation, even if it is lagging behind, but can we have experiential learning, right, focused on filling these gaps? That's another, thought process. Of course, how can we have a closer connection with the industry? And more importantly, right, faculty development programs. I think credit to faculty. The kids or the students these days definitely have a lot more information on their hand as compared to what faculty had when they were students, right? So invariably you see kids having a lot more information, and posing very very difficult challenges to faculty also. So faculty has to spend a lot of time themselves getting updated on the latest that is happening in the industry. So there is an opportunity for closer collaboration to see how faculty can also get updated on the latest trends that are happening in the industry, right? And from an industry perspective, definitely companies like us are investing deeply in supporting internship for college grads, right? So um, I think last year, okay, I'll cover that. We did spend a lot of time and attention in terms of identifying graduates, and then pairing them with internal stakeholders, internal managers, and leaders, to offer them interesting internship opportunities, which will really what do you say you know uh, push them, which will really push them to apply concepts that they have learned in their colleges, and sort of tickle their imagination, right? That is something that we have been focused on. Um, we actually, when we in many cases, we actually throw some very challenging opportunities or problems to these young kids that come into, I mean, that have not yet graduated, but they are in the final year, or the third year of their engineering, just to give them an idea of what sort of opportunities exist in the industry. And this also pushes them to go beyond their comfort zone, right? Beyond their books and lectures that they have. They are forced to think deeply about the fundamental concepts, because some of these challenges that are there are not available in their textbooks. They have to apply these concepts, and this gives them a lot of learning, right? If there are committed people, and some of these students are so committed, they go out of the way, they read whatever material is available on the research sites and so on, and they try, and it's like a challenge that is given to them, right? So um, and then of course we talked about how industry can help faculty, and then what we have done is also we have selected a few colleges where we sort of deepen our relationship with faculty, by providing an opportunity for the faculty to come and see what type of work that we do, and also get updated. Um, and then we've also support center of excellences at certain colleges and so on, right? So what we're trying to do is, we from our business perspective, we understand what are the trends for the next 5 years, or what are the new things that are happening in the industry for the next 5 years. By talking to customers, talking to industry experts, attending events, we have a good idea of where the industry is moving and what are the skills that will be necessary for the industry, 4 5 years later. So what we do is we then figure out in our list of colleges or universities that we work with, how can we partner with a few of them by setting up these center of excellences around some of these new areas, so that we can we maybe in some cases some of our CSR funding is diverted to these colleges, so that they can invest in a particular facilities and so on. And then we also we collaborate, our employees or our managers and subject matter experts work with these labs, work with the students in the labs, to and provide interesting challenges and so on, so that there is a focus on some of these new emerging areas. The students get an idea, and at the end of it, we also get some trained talent that can think in those lines, what the industry is expecting, and which will be valuable for us moving forward. So these are some of the various things that we think about, right, when we see how to address these problems. So essentially what we're trying to do is saying that how can we have an enhanced work integrated learning framework, right, and how that can lead to better industry ready engineers. Now till now what has been happening is we've had this sporadic industry academia interactions. It's not a very regular, of course internships is regular, but internships is primarily for one semester or so that we offer these internships and so on. So we're rethinking how some of this can be done. So of course, we are pushing to see how curriculum development and we can design better learning frameworks in consultation with industry and academia, especially around areas that we believe is the future, right? So that is something that we want to push for. And then if you look at work integrated learning, we need to create not just a one time, one internship and so on, but a continuous sort of interaction between industry and the students, right? With whether introducing them to workplace activities, at frequent intervals, on campus various activities that we do, flexible projects that they can undertake. Of course, this means that we need to figure out, work with the colleges and universities to see how much of time they can devote, the students can devote, apart from their academics, to such pursuits and so on. And then, how do you assess, whether this is working or not, right? So this is something that we are thinking about, how work integrated learning can work, and we have some thought process there, right? And this is, these are some crazy ideas. I'm not for one saying that, look, this is something that we can incorporate immediately, but I think we need to think out of the box. So what you're saying is, instead of having 8 semesters, can we look at the engineering, the structure that we have. At least in India, it is primarily semester based. You have 8 semesters, 2 semesters in a year, and so on. So what we're saying is, you have 4 semesters in the first 2 years, and then 6 trimesters in the next 2 years, right? So what you're saying is, you have a trimester of, say, 3.5 to 4 months, or maybe 3 months, depending on the vacations and so on for the kids, right? So what we're saying is, you look at these last 2 years, and you in the third year have 3 trimesters for industry aligned programs, and 3 trimesters for internship. Of course, we can figure out whether we can have it in the second year as well, right? So second, third, and fourth year, or even in the third and fourth year, figure out how we can address have very focused internship for a duration of 3 months each, and this is sort of, I mean, you need to figure out how the credits would work and how the evaluation will be done and so on. The challenge, especially in India, is if you go to tier two, tier three, and even in some tier one, colleges and so on, um, the projects or the internships or sometimes these are not taken with the right seriousness. I do know. I don't know. There's a market for what do you say? Uh, project reports, right? You do have. I mean, I said about 50% of the engineering graduates don't get a job, so they end up doing all sorts of things, right? One of the things that they do is they they create these project reports for other engineering graduates. So you can go and buy these reports. You pay money, buy these reports, and submit it as your report. I mean, this is totally self-defeating, and both the engineering student also doesn't realize that what a mistake he's making. But these are some bad practices that are there in the colleges and institutes, right? So we definitely need to avoid these things. There is enough of opportunities uh, in the industry. It is just that between both industry and academia, we have to agree on the way forward, right? And and I talked about this fact that look, work from anywhere, learn from anywhere is now deeply ingrained in, at least in the corporate, right, in terms of how we train our people and so on. There are a number of good courses that are available online. We have some of the best universities in the world putting all their courses online. We have some of the whether it's open source MOOC or even Coursera or Udemy, or there are many LinkedIn Learning. There are many top many online programs available. So I think to bridge the gap between what is needed for the industry, versus what is existing, the curriculum and so on. Some of these online modules could really bridge that gap. I mean, the academia could think about it as an opportunity to really introduce some of these online modules, which has assessments as well, right? And then push. I do know that many academia have, there are tech clubs and opportunities available, but this is something that should be sort of made compulsory or mandatory, uh, just to get people to get their hands dirty, right? And and we talked about this faculty engagement in industry. You can have an annual event, an immersion of industry immersion for faculty, and also on the factory floor, understanding industry problems with a consultative approach. Some program to be created, so that the faculty just goes and meets industry experts. In their own mind, they need to be constantly aware of what is happening, what are the new things that are happening, how can their courses, how can some of their courses be tuned, right? I do know that there are faculty in some cases don't have that flexibility, but at least in a few autonomous universities that are free to have their own curriculum and so on, these could be tried out. I think I've sort of spent more than half an hour. I'll try and quickly cover the remaining part too. Um, so industry definitely has a major role to play in developing these integrated programs. So lot of areas that we work in, right? Uh, and unfortunately, the industry, sorry, the academia, when they look at it, they focus on the basic courses and so on, right? Whereas the industry needs industry specific inputs. If you look at it, if you look at the uh, some of the areas that we operate in, say automotive engineering, right? The world is moving towards autonomous cars. The world is moving towards alternate fuels and better, newer battery technologies and so on and so forth. The colleges definitely do a good job in providing the basics and so on, but is there an opportunity to have some electives at least, that that possibly maybe the industry can also contribute. The industry can also provide part-time faculties and so on, right? So uh, uh, and from an industry perspective, we also need to recognize our employees and senior managers and subject matter experts, right, for their involvement with educational institutions. At least at Elxsi, we do encourage our employees to participate, to take courses, part-time courses, and in some of the colleges that we are deeply tied with, we also help in fine-tuning some of the curriculum that meets our requirements, and we also send our experts to take those curriculum, those courses, right, to teach those courses to students, and even provide inputs in terms of infrastructure, labs, and so on, right? So those are things that we do, and of course we need to directly engage with students, organize events, organize hackathons, organize contests. These are some things that we do to really create really sort of extract that creative juices, or those challenging opportunities for kids, right? So that's something that we do. And so some of the things that we do, I talked about internship programs. So I think last year we've hired about 600 interns. They spend 6 months in working with our experts. We of course paid them an internship fee and so on, but more important, we gave them those opportunities to learn some of that new things that are happening in the industry. um, and from our perspective, what we have done is, we have absorbed actually some of the brightest of those kids. As they completed their internship, we also made the job offers, because we felt that these guys have that fire in the belly, that urge to learn, and they adapted to our culture pretty well, right? So I think from our perspective, it was a very encouraging situation, and we definitely would want to increase this sort of activity, so that we get committed, bright kids to join us, right? We also engage with students directly. We've actually done a global design contest, essentially talking about sustainability, right? How can you create a sustainable a solution that will address future needs of in any segments. We had a very broad theme, and kids from around the world actually participated. And we did there was an award of $10,000 that we gave for the first prize, right? So yeah, I mean, we did get a lot of enthusiastic kids participating in such events. Yeah, I already talked about the part-time faculty, so that's something that we also encourage. Yeah. So I think I've already talked about the internship, part. And this is something that I talked about, right? We did the design context. We call it Ignite, and that's the winner. I mean, the person who designed an innovative product, very very innovative concept. So he won the design award. So these are some things that we are doing to see how we can push industry, academia collaboration, really help to see how we can we can't solve the entire problem, but at least from our perspective, from Tata Elxsi's perspective, can we look at addressing the challenges that we have, right? I already talked about it in terms of getting industry trained engineers that you wouldn't take so much of time to really be productive, right? So for example, all the interns that we've hired have been productive. We've just had to put them through a 2 weeks induction, and a campus to industry program, so that they understand how to work in an industry sort of scenario. And in about 2 weeks to 4 weeks, a majority of them have been moved into productive work. I think that's a very, very good situation for us, and we definitely want to encourage a lot more collaboration with the industry, um, uh, uh, with the academia, right? To really address some of these problems that we have. So I think that's sort of a brief uh, sort of an overview, and I hope that uh, some of what I said made sense, and would look forward to hearing your comments.
Thank you, Manoj. That was very interesting presentation. Also, you have very good points about collaboration between academia and industry. Let's see first if anybody would like to ask a question. So, well, if you have a mic, you can probably ask question directly, or you can also put it in the chat, and then we will ask your question to Manoj. Yeah, I just want to, like, while we're probably waiting, if somebody want to write a question, I just want to let you know that at Griffith, we have this program, which is called Industry Affiliates Program. So like when we actually place our students, final year students, for one trimester, which is, I think, about 3 months in the industry. So they just work as part of their learning experience, so they can apply their concepts that they've learned from the lectures, tutorials, so they can actually apply them into practice. So they actually like work for a whole trimester there, and then to write a final report. So they gain experience, they apply knowledge into practice. So they also like learn the soft skills, like how to communicate with industry people, with clients. So we have this kind of thing here, and I think the industry really likes it, because afterwards, if they like those students, they can actually hire them. So because they also sort of like train them as part of their engineering degree. So they don't really need to spend like let's say like 6 months, what you do, right? You spend 6 months in the class and 6 months also on site. So I think we have more and more industry people joining this program. So, and I typically have about 70–80% of students who actually can work in the industry out of all cohort of students. And another thing that we do, and I think you also mentioned it during your presentation, that we try to do it not only in the final year. So we try to have this interaction with the industry during the whole program. So we start with first year. We have the whole week when students just go and talk to the industry. We take them to different companies, so they see like what it's all about. Then we also have guest speakers from the industry, so we just invite them to talk to students, and then we also teach the students how to write resumes, how to write reports and things like that. So we try to prepare them for the industry. So that's what we have here at Griffith, the kind of system. Yeah, and another thing that I wanted to mention, that you were saying that in India only there's many people who graduate, many graduates, but not enough job. What we've seen here currently in Australia, because I think the country was closed for like 2 years because of COVID. Now we have actually like more jobs than graduates. So we have like many jobs now. And like every week we have at least like 2 or 3 companies asking for like our graduates, because we have, well, it wasn't like that before. So before COVID, that was different. But after COVID, because the country like was like closed for 2 years, and then we still like need engineers, so we have more and more people.
Sure. No, that's true. Yeah, I think that's what you said is true. During COVID, all economic activities, was put on a slow burn, right? And now with the economy opening up, so there is a huge demand for good resources and so on. So what you said is, I think even in In a lot of tier one colleges in India, the same thing happens. There is a lot more industry academia collaboration and opportunity for students to really interact. But then the number of colleges, at least tier two, tier three, is so huge, right? The number of students is so huge. If you have 2.5 million students pursuing engineering, it's
Yeah,
crazy. I think that somewhere the demand supply situation was not looked into.
yeah, you have like many people, I think many
Yeah,
graduates compared to Australia on Gold
yeah,
Coast, yeah. But we do have this also issue, but we try to work on it. So I think here, like at Griffith, what we try to focus on more on industry kind of related skills. We still like
sure.
teach our students theory, but not just like 100% theory, because like theory, I mean, when you try to apply it into practice, I mean, students cannot really do that because they can solve a problem, but when they
Sure,
actually like need to do it in practice, they just don't know what to do. So I think
sure.
what we try to do, we try to switch more like, of course, we need to teach them fundamental aspects of each discipline, but at the same time,
Sure,
what like the way we teach, we use lots of like project-based learning. So even
sure.
in the class, we tell them, okay, this is a big industry like project or problem. So and then we teach them how to solve it. So they actually like work on it, and then they see like why we teach them this like theory,
Yeah,
because in the end they will see like a bigger picture. Oh, so this is what we're going to do in the practice. That's
sure.
why we need the skills. So like we try to do that like this way as well, so that
Yeah,
students will
yeah.
get a little bit
No,
of more experience.
agree. I think experiential based learning is a lot more. You retain that concepts far longer than any other
Yeah, yeah, because you
ways of
actually like
training.
practice. It's not like,
Yeah,
because even with what we have lots of exams, and
yeah,
this may not work really well for like everybody, because for these exams you just like try to memorize
yeah,
everything maybe 2 3
yeah,
days before the exam, then you
yeah,
pass it, and then like you just forget it, after like
yeah,
one
yeah,
week or two. So I think what we're trying to do here more like kind of project based type of learning,
sure.
where they actually like maybe like need to memorize a lot, but they just
Sure.
practice, focus on important aspects. Maybe we don't really need to cover everything, because in
Yeah.
the industry it's not going to be that important to cover all
No,
this area.
absolutely. I mean, if you
So
look at it, I really can't remember the various concepts that I learned in my college and what have I applied in industry, right? So you're right, as you say, right? And exams are important, but I would really love to see academia colleges have a lot more open book exams.
yeah, that's also a good thing, and that's like what like we have in many courses.
Yeah,
So we just like let them use like books, notes, graphs, tables, but we
yeah,
just give them like, let's say, 2 hours. So you can use
yeah,
like whatever you want.
yeah,
So you have
yeah,
2 hours to finish. So I think this is also
yeah,
like more practical than just like
exactly.
ask them to solve some kind of like theoretical problems, that which is
Yeah,
also good and good practice, but from a practical point of view, maybe not very useful, I believe.
sure, sure.
Are there any questions? Anybody would like to ask questions? We have very interesting presentation from the industry. I think what we have here, like mostly academics.
I would like to ask a question actually.
Yes.
Yeah, so I would like to thank Sir for giving such a wonderful webinar. And I'd like to thank the organizers as well for this wonderful opportunity. So my name is Swati, and I'd like to speak from a student's perspective who has recently graduated. So I
Mhm.
really agree with what has been discussed, because I feel like the final semester of the studies is very stressful in terms of having to focus on like finding a new job, because I think up till that semester, our focus is mainly on passing examinations. And in
Mhm.
the final semester, we end up realizing, oh, now we need to completely like steer our focus on finding a new job. So
Yeah.
uh, I really like that the suggestion that you had mentioned, the change in the engineering program structure, because we are mostly focused on like getting through the courses and getting through our examinations. And then we realize that we're not really prepped for getting ready for the industry. So I think that was really a very valid suggestion. And I would like to ask, sir, there is a large missing balance that you had mentioned in the number of jobs available, especially for students who are not studying computer science or IT in India.
Sure. Sure.
I've seen that the core jobs are not as available as IT jobs. So many of my friends and myself included, we end up studying for a core engineering job, like for communication engineering. But then we end up finding out that these skills, maybe our skills are not up to the mark, and we end up having to shift to the IT industry, or because there are more jobs available. So we end up having to make that trade-off that we cannot maybe get a core job right now. So do you have any suggestions on what these students should do in terms of finding the job that they are interested in, especially because they spent maybe like extra time trying to learn industry skills in this core job, but then not finding the job at the end, or not getting the job in the end?
No, this is an unfortunate situation in India. I mean, it depends on which side of the spectrum you're in, right? It's an unfortunate situation that right now, the lot of jobs are in the IT industry, right? So, say people like you study communication engineering, do all the hard, digital signal processing, and studying all about power electronics, and everything you study, and then you end up doing some banking software. That is that's a real waste of the talent that you have, and all the sort of inputs that all the even your college and whoever has given all those inputs, right? So but however, Swati, that's the reality. Jobs are there in the IT industry. But having said that, uh, even now there are a set of very committed engineers who want to be in their industry domain, right? So definitely jobs in the core sectors are far lesser, right?
Yes.
So if a college is graduating, say 100 mechanical engineers or 100 civil engineers, it will be
Yes.
very difficult for them to get core jobs, because the core jobs that are available are maybe 25 or 30. That's the
Mhm.
capacity that the industry can absorb. Whereas the industry can absorb maybe 1,000 computer science engineers,
Yes, that is true.
right? So unfortunately, so what that forces is a lot of kids, migrate towards computer science, right? And even if you take your, I don't know which college are you from, if you are from SSN, I think SSN will
Yes.
have maybe 1,000 computer science students, and maybe 100 electronic students. I don't know, but I've seen this, right? Practically, a
Mhm.
lot more. And that's natural, because kids, ultimately, why are you studying? You want a job. So
Yes.
so even academia, even colleges, have a maximum number of seats where they believe there are jobs, right?
Mhm.
But then what happens is some of these core sectors are struggling a big time. If, for example, if you're a good chemical engineer, or if you're a good mechanical engineer, there are really core jobs that are available. But then you, as a student, when you're doing engineering, have to have the clear focus that I'm interested in this area. For example, mechanical engineering, or even
Mhm.
electrical engineering, for example. You look at various industries. You look at the car industry. There is now a demand, huge demand for power electronics engineers, because
Yes.
they are the people that are needed to understand how an electric vehicle work, right?
Mhm.
If maybe 2 3 years ago this input was available to students, a lot more of them may have focused in this area. A lot more of them may have even interned with companies that are doing work in this area, and a lot more
Mhm.
of these people would have got jobs that are satisfying, that really meets their requirement, right? So similarly, in every field, there's huge amount of chemical engineers, for example. The entire specialty chemicals industry is booming right now,
Mhm.
and those that sector doesn't get good engineers at all. But if somebody tells the academia, tells the chemical engineering faculty and the engineers that, look, this is an area that is booming, we definitely
Yes.
want people to focus on this and collaborate with industry, create those internship, get the kids to know what the hell is happening in the industry, and get them the confidence that they can remain in their core sector and they will get a job, right? So I think there is no easy answer. So for example, Tata Elxsi, we definitely want to hire good electronics communication engineers. We want to hire good mechanical engineers. Of course, we want to hire good computer science engineers and so on. So there are a lot of core jobs available in the areas of interest. And so we go out to the colleges and we really, spend time, money, educating people, giving them opportunities, internship, trying to get people not to move away to other non-core areas, right? Which will be a loss for us. So I think I think the entire theme of this presentation is all about that, right? How can both industry and academia collaborate to prevent some of what you said happening, right? To really give opportunities to the kids who want to graduate in some of these core engineering areas. And believe me, there's a huge demand for such. I won't say huge demand, but there is demand. But the academia is not producing enough engineers in those because all the engineers are moving towards IT. Even if you're a civil engineer, right from the second year, you're starting to studying C coding, and you're more interested in preparing yourself for a IT job and rather than a civil engineering job.
Yes, that is true. Yeah. Yes, sir, I agree. Yeah. So I think, as you had mentioned, the interest also comes into play. And yeah. So thank you, sir. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Swati, for your comment and your question, and thank you, Manoj, for your answer. I think we will actually need to conclude the session because it's been already 1 hour. So that was very interesting to see how industry actually looks at graduates if they're not ready or they're ready. Also, it was very interesting to know about what is going on in India. I think we have some similar problems and a little bit different things in Australia. We're not as a huge country as India, so but we do have issues like that. So, but we also try to solve them. We try to bring industry to our unis so that there will be more collaboration. Well, thanks everybody for your time. Thanks for joining the session. That was the final webinar this year. So we will resume it next year, probably in February, March. And I will let you know by email. And of course, I would like to thank Manoj for your time. You're very busy looking for new graduates, right, to hire. And thanks for your time. Thanks for sharing your experience. Thanks a lot. And have a nice day. Have a nice weekend ahead of you.
Thank you, Dr. Ivan. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Thank you, Manoj. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.